Why do so many One Nation voters put their preferences towards Labor instead of Liberal? It's a really interesting dilemma, and I think it's one that Liberals are really struggling with. And if you are a One Nation voter that did preference Labor in the last election, I would honestly love to know why. So put it in the comments. But here's my theory. This here is just a recent article talking about how One Nation is surging in popularity while the Liberals are dipping. And if you saw the video that this comment is connected to, I showed that there's a lot of One Nation voters that actually preference Labor over Liberal. And you kind of wonder why that might be. Part of it, I think, has to do with the fact that it is a populist party, as their own people would say. And while One Nation have a bunch of policies that are on the far right around climate change, immigration, health, things like that, they do have a bunch of policies as well around fisheries, forestry, industry, agriculture, more typical blue-collar type of things. And then they have policies around multinational taxation avoidance. And you know who else has policies around that? Yeah, the Greens. Because that is more of a populist style policy. And if you're looking at the difference between Labor and Liberal, even though both of them are fairly compromised when it comes to big business, well, the Liberals are traditionally the ones that are on the high end of town, right? They're the rich folk that, well, they would be against most unionist type policies, whereas Labor is traditionally for union and blue collar workers. So there is the possibility that there are a fair chunk of One Nation supporters that are not there necessarily for the far right immigration sort of stances that they're taking, but more there for the blue collar Aussie battler type of policies, which if you are a supporter of workers' rights and taxing multinational corporations and things like that, well, that's more of a socialist agenda. So that's where I think the Liberals have a real problem, because the majority of One Nation voters may not think that they are far right enough, whereas there is then another bunch of One Nation voters that don't think they're populist enough. But that's just my thoughts. So yeah, if you are a One Nation supporter that did preference Labor, let us know why.